Today we're going to be discussing the potential supply chain interruption that could have significant impact on our daily lives if the UPS worker strike goes through. The consequences that it has could be far-reaching. This is the Urban Sentinel, and let's get into it. Over just the past few years, we've seen firsthand the effects caused by the global pandemic and the interruptions to the supply chain as it led to scarcity of essential goods, longer delivery times, and increased prices. However, the potential strike by UPS, the workers poses a different set of challenges with a man-made distribution and delivery shutdown. Let's talk about the similarities and the differences between this supply chain interruption due to the pandemic and one caused by a potential strike. Understanding these distinctions is going to help you prepare a little bit better for the events that occur. Both situations can lead to supply disruptions, but the primary difference is the availability of goods. During the pandemic, safety was a primary issue, so many places had fewer people working in order to safe distance and social distance, which led to longer times in the chain of command in moving goods from one point to the next point to the next point. In addition, many people were affected health-wise by the pandemic, and you had fewer workers available to work as an overall whole, which again increased the time it took a product to go from the ground to your shelf in that whole entire period. The UPS strike is specifically about the distribution and delivery of all those products. So the products are available, the workers are available, they're doing their shifts, everything moves all the way along until it gets to that end point at the warehouse where UPS would normally take over. Unlike the other events, the measures that were taken during the pandemic, those aren't a factor anymore. So there's no longer an issue with the social distancing and health inspections and things like that. It is strictly purely about the companies that ship out through UPS finding alternative ways to get you, the consumer, the goods and services that you're getting from them. In many cases, it's not even a direct delivery to you that you may notice. It might be simply the brick and mortar store that you go to orders their products, and it normally would get delivered by UPS. With FedEx and the United States Postal Service, speaking domestically here in America, they're available, and many other smaller carriers are available to pick up the slack. UPS as a whole accounts for a large portion, but not the total of all parcels delivered throughout America. But with that being said, it's not going to be a finger snap, instantaneous process. It's going to take those companies that have contracts with UPS for specific delivery rates and pickup and delivery times, which also affects what it costs you, the recipient, to negotiate that with the Postal Service, with FedEx, with all these other carriers. So that's, again, going to alter what it may cost you online, what it may take in time to get into a location where you order and you go and pick it up. It has an effect that is far different than simply lack of workers or lack of supplies. Now everything is there. It's just a matter of how much is it going to cost and how long is it going to take. Staying informed about the current developments and how things are going is going to be one of the key things in preparation. You yourself aren't going to be able to sway anything, stem the tide on any level, but being consciously aware of the things that you do buy, whether it's online or you go and shop in person. Yes, large big box stores such as Walmart, they get their supplies from their warehouses, and the warehouses get their supplies from other distributors. They have a much broader command of the supply chain, but there are many other smaller retailers that they rely on these individual carriers to basically, they order their goods and then it gets brought in and then they sell them to you. Those are going to have the most prevalently observable, readily observable effects on things as it goes along, and depending upon how long the strike does go on, if it does in fact happen, will be the determination. And again, it's not going to be overnight. You're not going to see the shelves empty out to a reasonable extent from lack of delivery. You may have people panic buying, but you're not going to see an absolute drop in services or delivery goods because there are still other carriers out there capable of picking up that slack. It may take several days to a few weeks before things sort of get up to a normal speed where you don't notice a difference from your end anymore. With the previous incidences, such as hurricanes, other types of labor disputes. There was the potential railroad strike that was going to occur just a few years ago. Things like that have an effect, and depending upon what else occurs after a strike can also then accent or highlight the imbalances and deficiencies within our supply chain network, because it is still not as secure as it potentially could be. So it comes down to a UPS strike now, followed up by 1 or 2 major natural disasters in an area where goods are supplied or produced or manufactured, on top of other things that could occur that will also then spiral out of control and cause a larger scale of supply and demand issues that we saw during the height of the pandemic, where now everyone is looking to get just those basic items, but they're getting harder to either find them or get them delivered within a reasonable amount of time. Stock up on your essentials. That's always the first thing. Stock up on your essentials. It's not just simply food and water. You got to think about whatever medicines that you have, prescription meds. Do you get them through UPS delivery? If so, can you contact that supplier and find out what they're going to do in the event that this strike does occur? How are they going to get you the necessary meds you need? Stock up on things that, yes, while you can find them on the shelf now, again, you're not sure where the delivery aspect comes from. It might come from a large warehouse and there's plenty of it, and the drivers are private drivers or they work for the company that you're buying it from, or it may come from multiple warehouses that use different contractors, and it's just simply a matter of now, instead of coming from warehouse A and coming to retail store B, it's got to go from warehouse A to warehouse C to retail store D, and then eventually to your store as it gets driven around by smaller carriers dropping things off as they go. Even if you prepare just a little bit, you stock up on those essentials, you get ahead of the herd. That's the primary thing. You shouldn't have to panic buy. You shouldn't have to rush out to the store and start grabbing everything that you can off the shelf. There should be no reason for that. Take your time. Think about what you actually use, what you actually need, and how long it lasts you, because that's the key difference. If you need medicines, if you need certain dietary required food items, if you need certain supplies, anything like that, that you go through on a regular basis, you may want to try to get more of them now, because potentially in the next few weeks, if a strike does occur, you'll start to see those items either dwindle in availability or increase in the time it simply takes you to get it. So there may be plenty available. It's just a longer delivery process to go from the warehouse to your front door. Now, with that being said, we've been through smaller incidences locally, regionally, even on a nationwide level, where yes, there were times where it seemed like there were absolutely the very last strands and strings left holding the fabric of our society together. But it's not to say that just this one strike is going to be the end all. It's not a case of, this is it, this is how everything falls apart. It's simply a matter of you're preparing now for an eventuality that could occur. And if nothing happens, you're no worse off. There's absolutely nothing wrong with preparing and planning ahead, getting those few things that you may need to hold you off for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And if nothing occurs, you're still better off for it, versus being on the other end of it where you sit back and you say, it's much ado about nothing. And then something does go wrong, and then you become one of those people pushing and shoving, getting into the crowded places, reaching and trying to grab hold of those last few items, or you're online scrolling and panic clicking on everything that you have in your shopping cart, trying to max out your credit cards to get all those goods and supplies in as soon as possible, hoping that it gets here to you before any potential shutdown delays the process. So just remember, plan ahead, think things through, write it out, take a good, calm, rational look at everything that's going on, and then make your decisions on what will best benefit you and take those steps from there, because that's what it comes down to. If you've got loved ones, friends, and family that you want to help out, that's great, but you can't help them if you don't help yourself first. So again, think about the plans that you have now and the actions that you plan on taking, and that'll make the determination on how ready and able you are to handle any potential event such as this potential shutdown due to a strike or anything else that occurs in the near future. That's it for now. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.